Hi everybody, it's your boy. Ever since concept art was shown off at Minecraft Live last year, and especially lately, the community has been all about a Birch Forest update. What would that look like? If you've always been wondering, today's your lucky day. I've got a taste of it. 15 Birch Forest ideas. If you could add anything in the entire world to the Birch Forest, what would you add? Drop it down below. If you could add one thing, and only one thing maybe, would it be something insanely exciting like taller trees? Because yes, a million times yes. Okay, I get it. It's not the most exciting idea in the world, but it's essential. Ever since the addition of the tree, the forest, and more importantly today, the birch forest, the trees have always been kind of the same. Short, a little bit stubby looking. The developers have stated they want to make all of the biomes feel a whole lot better. If they want to do that, taller trees in the birch forest, it's step one. During the development of the 1.18 update, you might remember that the devs tested some elytra changes. The goal of these elytra changes was to make transportation more balanced. If the devs have that goal, taller trees would definitely do that. With taller trees, you'd be able to easily ride a horse through the forest. Believe it or not, this over here, this is the old growth birch forest, which is meant to be really tall. And look at these trees. I'm like literally inside of them right now. That's not good. Right now, the poor parrot is alone, lonely, and old. This has been doing the heavy lifting in the bird department for years. Because of all of the weight on its shoulders from heavy lifting, it's corrupting their minds, turning them evil. It's time that changes. A Birch Forest update is the perfect time. More birds be added to the game. Now, right now, I'm using the Mo Creatures mod to add all of these birds in. Ideally, in the Birch Forest update, I'd say one type of bird. Two of my favorite types of birds for a birch update would be the crow or the dove. The dove, of course, matches the color palette of the birch forest biome. The crow, it's a contrast. Imagine being able to walk through a birch forest biome with the taller birch trees that we just talked about, and you have birds all over the place. Oh man, it would be great. Now, later on in the video, we're going to talk about another change to trees, and this change to trees would make the perfect spot for a bird nest as well. This new type of bird wouldn't even necessarily have to drop anything. I mean, if they did, that would be cool, but their whole purpose could be ambiance. Or, even better, we go the goat horn route, and this new bird is a songbird. You get the bird, and it sings a wonderful song. But, like, you don't, like, blow into the bird to sing the song, it just does it. Blowing into the, yeah, that would be weird. When I was writing the list for this video, I thought it would be a pretty cool idea to get some insight from the smartest people in the entire world, my Instagram followers. So I threw a story up. One of my favorite responses to that story came from Koto-sama. Bushes. Bushes inside the birch forest. Oh, it's genius. In an ideal world, this makes it into the game, and when it makes it into the game, it should come in one form. My mockup that I set up over here comes in 3 separate forms because, really, how I see it, we have 3 separate routes. We could go the old school route. For the longest time, if players wanted bushes, they would just put leaf blocks down. It works, it creates a bush. But nowadays, there's a better way, the azalea bush. Imagine a new type of bush being added to the game that is kind of like the azalea bush, but grows inside of the birch forest. Or we have the dangerous route, the sweet berry bush. The devs could go the route of this plant right here, have a thorny, spiky bush that slows you down into the birch forest. Maybe it has berries, maybe it doesn't. Without any decoration on the ground, the birch forest biome, you can't deny it kind of feels a little bit soulless. With the bushes on the ground, oh man, I don't think it would anymore. To check out our next update idea today, one of my favorites is I'm using a data pack. If you're super insightful, you might be thinking to yourself right now, wait a second, I kind of recognize that. And maybe that's because you do. I made a data pack showcase on the best birch forest update. It's absolutely amazing. If you missed that video, card on screen to it right now, come back to this point in the video after watching the whole thing and check it out. The hollowed log. I think this is one of those OG ideas that people have always been requesting. Once this was teased in that birch forest concept art last fall, the community got excited. A hollowed log. I mean, look at this thing right here. It's so amazing. It's so simple. It's so simple. Yeah, it's so simple. It's a great idea, a hollowed log. I mean, really, in the grand scheme of things, I feel like it's not that complex. I mean, look, how I see it here, we have 2 options. We have option number 1, amazing option. I'm heavily biased towards this one, hollowed log on the ground. Or option number 2, we take the log and we just lay it on the ground. Now, because this block starts to get a little bit more complex, the devs could go 2 routes with it. Route number 1, it's a hollowed log and it lays on the ground and it's really cool. As soon as you mine it, it breaks apart because it's brittle, it's old, it's not ready to be picked up. Or option number 2, you can pick it up, you will pick it up, and you make a big wall with a ton of windows. If the devs have this goal of working their way back through the game, adding more ambiance and life to each biome, in the birch forest case, I think they could add life to this biome with something completely devoid of life, rocks. Rocks are in the ground inside of that mega taiga biome, and they're absolutely beautiful there. They're really simple. It's essentially mossy cobblestone on the ground in giant chunks. Really cool. If the devs want to go a super detailed decorating and new route, maybe smaller rocks too, like pebbles. Of course, right here to create this idea mock-up, I'm just using buttons. It's plain, it's simple, but it definitely works. Imagine a reality where we didn't have to use buttons on the ground for rocks anymore. Imagine small rocks being added to the game, kind of like a button that could be placed on the ground, almost like a sea pickle. Like a sea pickle, have I lost it completely off the rails? No, not quite yet. Like a sea pickle, yes. One sea pickle right there, second sea pickle, third and fourth. Imagine having a small pebble item in the game that is kind of like the sea pickle, where you can put up to 4 small pebbles on a single block. That would make detailing so much more amazing. And I think something like this would absolutely aestheticify the birch forest biome. Before we talk about our next idea, oh no, you've encountered a quick vibe check. To pass this vibe check, smash like. Alright, thank you. Moving on. Rocks on the ground inside of the birch forest biome, I see it as an absolute must. Step 1, you make the trees taller. Step 2, you put the rocks on the ground. This starts to fill the biome up and it looks good. Let's go back to talking about the trees though again, because I think there's more that the devs could do to the trees. The birch forest tree is essentially a clone of the oak tree, except like, more boring. I mean, think about it. The oak tree have these really cool giant trees, and what does the birch tree have? Well, nothing. It's like an ancient looking tree. Not only do birch trees need to grow taller, providing more wood from a single tree, but they also need to have that cool log sticking off at the side of them that was shown off in that concept art. Imagine birch trees in the game like this. It's simple. It's really not much at all, but it makes the tree so much more interesting. I mean, you have that exposed side of the log texture right there that adds a little bit of texture variation inside of a biome that is otherwise like really samey. Also, with these logs on the side of the tree and the trees being taller, I feel like it makes the biome feel way more grand. Trees like this would be great. Okay, so admittedly, I wasn't too sure how I could really replicate this next idea, but I think it's a really cool idea. So think of the mangrove swamp biome in 1.19. On those mangrove trees, you have moss carpet generating. It's really cool. You could, of course, take that idea and slap it inside of the birch forest biome, but then I kind of start to worry that it's getting repetitive. You start seeing moss carpet in every biome, it doesn't feel unique anymore. So, instead of the moss carpet idea, hear me out here, but moss layer on the tree. So moss layer on the tree would be kind of like, well, you know, now that I think about it, I guess it would be kind of like this right here. You have the tree, and then you have the moss on the tree. It's kind of cool. The best way that I could think of to show this off in game would be something like this, but to be clear, absolutely not saying the moss blocks should generate on the bottom of birch trees. That's weird. Maybe instead of like moss blocks or something like that, of course we need the log still here, some kind of layer that you could scrape off with like, you know, maybe a shear. Maybe something kind of like the vine, but definitely not the vine either. I'm thinking this would be a brand new addition to the moss family here. You have the moss block, you have the moss carpet, and then you have the moss side block thing. Yes, the moss side block thing that is on the side of the blocks in the birch forest biome. Make the trees taller, make them more detailed, rocks on the ground, moss on the tree, and there you go. That could be an entire birch forest update right there. But really, why stop there? Next up, let's talk about bees. So when you find a beehive generating in game, it usually generates on a tree, something like that right there. That's fine, it's cool. But I propose that the beehives should maybe generate a little bit differently inside of the birch forest biome, especially if the trees are updated. Also, I propose the beehives become most common inside of the birch forest biome. Like you up the spawn rate of the beehive inside of the birch forest biome, because birch trees now have this branch that is like literally handmade for the beehive right there. We've already talked about adding birds to this biome. Increasing the amount of bees inside of this biome would help increase the amount of life inside of this biome, and even better, the devs don't have to add anything new. We talked about the hollowed log. Love that idea. Later on, we're going to talk about a structure that I think is really cool. Love that one too. This one right here, it finishes my top 3 favorite ideas for the birch forest biome. An ent. Inside of the Mo creatures mob, this looks something like this. Now, if you don't know, an ent is essentially a mythical tree creature that is alive and living. I'm sorry, I always get distracted by the hands on this model. It's so terrifying, like it's so creepy, and I love it so much. But basically, a living tree creature. This living tree creature would of course have to look like the birch tree if it's inside of the birch forest biome. If implemented, this creature could be good or bad, totally up to the devs, but I do think bad, or at least like passive, would be an interesting route to go, kind of like a golem. Of course, with this thing being mythical and gigantic tree, it would be super strong, so if you make it mad, it's violent. I think it was in that Secrets of Minecraft series that they said they like the idea of bad mobs being mystical, and this is it. I mean, I don't know, maybe it's because I'm like literally borderline obsessed with plants in real life, but a gigantic living tree creature, this is some serious RuneScape vibes. This is some serious amazing vibes. This is some serious perfection vibes. They added this single thing into the birch forest, you could forget all of the other ideas on this list. This is all we need. Please. That birch forest concept art is amazing, and I think that's why people keep coming back to it. Like, there's lots to love about it. Smaller part of that concept art that is absolutely lovable: flowers. The birch forest biome in an update needs new flowers. I propose 2 brand new types of flowers that should come to the birch forest, or the data pack proposes. Either way, the concept art had a couple different types of flowers. This data pack has a couple different flower types as well. A 2 tall white flower, and then this small pink flower on the ground as well. I think adding a little bit of variation to flowers, like this small pink flower is doing right there, would be absolutely amazing. I mean, think about it right now and how it works. No offense to them, but essentially all the flowers are kind of the same thing. Of course, they're different shapes, but they all follow the same pattern, for the most part. And then a 2 tall white flower, oh, that would be absolutely amazing. With a 2 tall white flower, no matter what version of the game that you play on, you'd be able to actually bone meal this thing, thus farm a ton of white dye really easily. No more need to use all of your bone meal up on white dye. 2 tall white flower, I mean, this idea is bigger than the biome update itself. Could be absolutely amazing. Well, let's say we're maxed out on flowers. For some reason, the devs don't really want to do that. Well, then I think the simple answer is Lily of the Valley. The Lily of the Valley obviously matches the birch trees, and I think it makes the biome feel really cool. Also, a couple brown mushrooms on the ground near the base of some of the trees could be cool to see too. I mean, look, I'm no scientist, developer, or anything, but I think sometimes creating unique ambiance inside of a biome, it's easier than people might think. Think of the Lush Caves biome for a second. Inside of the Lush Caves biome, we have the Spore Blossom. The Spore Blossom creates these particle effects unique to the biome. Really cool. Imagine a birch forest biome with leaves that fall from the trees every so often. Now, to pull this one off, I'm using a resource pack. I'll link it down below. Absolutely amazing. Maybe the resource pack is making the leaves fall a little bit too often. I guess that one's up to you. A subtle leaf animation added to only the birch forest leaf block. Then you're inside of the biome, wandering around, surrounded by birch forest trees all over the place, and this particle effect becomes even more common. You have the leaves falling all throughout the forest, and it feels good. Like, really good. Listen to the music. It's smooth, it's jazzy. It feels great. Oh wait, I added that in. Still cool though. Structures, oh man, they're great. I don't think there's a single person in the entire world that hates structures and thinks Minecraft needs less structures. More structures are great, people always love them. Why not add even more to the game? And then even better, start making more of these structures a little bit more like biome specific. Kind of like the Woodland Mansion. And think of the Woodland Mansion for a second. If you have a Woodland Mansion in your Dark Oak Forest, that's great. If you don't, then you know you're gonna have to explore and explore and explore. You're looking for a specific biome, which means you might have to go pretty far. Eventually you find it, and it feels good. I think more biome unique structures, something like maybe this right here for the birch forest biome, promote exploration. So this thing, I'm taking inspiration from this image right here. When I was working on the list for this video, I saw this picture and I thought it was beautiful. I have no clue what it's from, but it's so cool. It kind of gives me like Stonehenge vibe. That's what I tried to recreate right here. It's simple, it's small. Now, maybe there could be loot here, maybe there couldn't be. In this model right here, there's no loot until you dig out this table. Then there is loot. This loot table could maybe look something like this. We want to match it to the birch forest biome, so lots of white things. Maybe a couple potions, that could make it a little bit worth it. A saddle, that's cool. Exploration, leather horse armor, that's a little bit underappreciated. I personally feel like a shrine like this would play into the game's lore that's currently going on, with tons of like ancient ruined things, like who was here before and what were they doing. And also it just matches the biome, especially if the biome got stones on the ground and things like that. Tall trees around this thing, it's like an oasis in the middle of the biome. It's so cool, and it's so mysterious too. Another idea that I had here, but I didn't really want to add in because I think it starts to get like modded, not that that's a problem, is maybe a unique spawner. Maybe you find some kind of structure like this, and buried below the center table is a spawner that you can find nowhere else. So if you want to set up a farm, yeah, that's great, that's cool, but you're going to have to set up an outpost inside of this biome, which means you're going to have to set up a transport system over to it and explore your world. And the birch forest biome is underappreciated. It's been in the game for years. The least the devs could do at this point to make people actually like this biome, give it a redemption arc, is add a cool structure. Maybe then the biome will feel warm, tender, and loved. Alright, so truthfully, I actually wasn't going to put this next idea in the video. I was going to replace it with beetles. I think beetles would be cool on the ground inside of the birch forest biome, ambient mob, but instead we have a tree mushroom. What convinced me to put this one in the video is the Instagram story. So many of you responded with this idea. Guess you loved it. It's from the concept art being showcased right here with the data pack. I do like this idea too. I think it's nice. Birch trees have these mushrooms that maybe naturally generate on these trees. Meaning like if you grow a birch sapling trying to get these things, you won't get them. They're really just here for the decoration. In survival, if you break these things with your hands, maybe you get them, maybe they just go away. Or maybe they just turn back into the brown mushroom. I mean, look, if we take a look at all of the tree types in the game, if there is any tree that this mushroom would fit on, it would be the birch forest tree. You put this on any other log and it kind of starts to blend in. So birch forest tree, if we're going to add this in, it's the perfect opportunity. And finally, here we are, me and you together at the final idea on this list today. I appreciate you for making it all the way to this point in the video. Final idea, better ponds. This is one that I actually had before the video, but a couple people said this on the Instagram story too. Thought it was kind of cool. You know what they say, great minds think alike. Better pond idea 1, small subtle particle effect. Right here, I'm using soul sand below the water to create the bubble particle effect. But what if you placed rooted dirt below the water, and then because of the life inside of that dirt, bubbles are created? Except this time, the bubbles don't really push you anywhere. It's for aesthetics. Lily pads, I think those are a must for sure. And maybe a little bit of rooted dirt around the pond, that could be pretty cool. And bonus points for a brand new type of plant. Right here, I'm using bamboo to create a new type of plant. Ideally, in game, it's absolutely not bamboo. That would not make any sense. But maybe like a small cattail or something like that. That's kind of what I was getting at here with the ferns around the pond as well. I think the ferns belong in other biomes, not really this one, but the ferns represent some kind of unique plant that maybe generates around the ponds inside of the birch forest biome. I mean, look, I'm not going to point any fingers or anything, but 1.19 with the mangrove swamp was the perfect opportunity for cattails, reeds, and I don't know. Maybe they're just saving it for birch forest pond update. Maybe. Yeah, that's it. And so that's it, 15 Birch Forest update ideas. Which one is your favorite from this video? Please tell me you agree. The Birch Forest biome definitely needs some kind of like Stonehenge vibe structure in it, right? Right? All of these updates would be amazing to see, but even just a random combination of 3 of these ideas from this list today would make the Birch Forest biome feel so much better. Today I'd like to send a big thank you to my patrons, Michael H, Austin V, Swoopy Louvers, and Loki OLR. Thank you for the support. If you like Birch Forest updates, check out that Birch Forest data pack. It's seriously amazing. Thank you all so much for watching today's video. Like, subscribe, and I'll see you tomorrow. Goodbye, everyone.